From the word to the memory data register. What about write operation? Write operation transfers the data bits from the memory data register to the word. Able to follow? From word to memory data register is going to read operation. From memory data register to word is going to be write operation.
Hello students, welcome to online class. I'm Sheila, your computer science teacher. Today we are going to see chapter 3, computer organization. See, your computer organization actually deals with hardware components. Your hardware components include input output devices, central processing unit, storage devices and primary memory. Yes, it actually deals with how the system is actually connected, how are they going to work. All this is going to be based on your computer organization. Yes, computer organization deals with what? The architectural specification. See, your computer organization is exactly similar to your computer architecture, but it is different. Could you follow? It is similar, but it is different. How? Computer architecture involves computer designing. Yes, computer architecture involves designing a computer, whereas your computer organization deals with hardware components. It deals with hardware components that are transparent to the programmer, Able to follow? Computer architecture is for designing a computer, and your computer organization deals with hardware components, and these hardware components are actually visible. It is actually accessible by the programmer. Basics of microprocessor. See, the major component of a computer is going to be your CPU. What is CPU? CPU stands for Central Processing Unit. What and all it has? It has arithmetic logical unit, it has program counter, it has instruction register, it has what else it has? It has control units, etc. and etc. Yes, it performs all the tasks here, isn't it? Yes, this actually has a microprocessor, and this microprocessor is termed as what? Integrated circuit as well. And this microprocessor was first introduced in the year 1970, and it was actually developed by Intel Inc. and the design was 4004. The microprocessor is a multi-purpose silicon chip. What it is actually? It is a multi-purpose silicon chip, and it is driven by what? Clock pulses. What is this clock pulses? See, it follows read, write, execute concept. Your clock pulse follows read, write, execute. What is reading? Getting the input. What is writing? Processing. Okay. And what about execute? Execute is your output. Yes. How the input is going to be? It is going to be a binary data. How it is going to be? It is going to be a binary data. And after processing, what is going to happen? The output data is going to be provided as per the instructions stored in the memory. Yes, have a look at this diagram. What and all you have here? You have an input. Input is actually sent to the microprocessor. Yes, whatever the operation is actually performed. To perform any operation, what happens is, say for example, if I wanted to perform 2 plus 2, I have to get these inputs 2 and 2, isn't it? From where can I get these inputs? Either I will be giving it as an input, and those inputs will be actually stored in the memory. The inputs that I am giving will be stored in the memory, or I may even give like this, A, B. A, B will be actually stored here. Able to follow? Listen again. I am writing it as A, comma, B. C is equal to A plus B. Fine. I have defined the variables A, B, and those variables will be already stored in my memory. Yes, and let us take like this also. A is equal to 2, B is equal to 3. So the value of A and B will be stored in the memory already. Now what am I doing is, when I wanted to perform the operation, I am giving inputs A is equal to 2, B is equal to 3. Yes, that will be stored in the memory. And when I wanted to perform the operation C is equal to A plus B, the data will be fetched from the memory. Yes, the operation will be performed. What is the result that I am going to get? 2 plus 3, it is going to be 5 and will be stored back in the memory again. Able to follow? What am I doing? I am giving the input 2, 3 as the input, and those inputs will be stored in the memory. Yes, for processing C is equal to A plus B, again I'll be fetching the data from the memory 2, 3. Yes, what do I do then? Then I perform A plus B operation. Again, the result will be stored back in the memory and that will be given as the output as well. Clear? What is your ALU? ALU we have seen already in our previous class itself, isn't it? What is ALU? ALU is used for performing arithmetic and logical operations. Yes. What is control unit? Control unit controls the overall operations of the computer through the signals. Yes, a read signal, a write signal, execute signal. These are the signals that is actually transmitted. Okay, read signal is your input signal, then write signal is your processing signal, and your execute signal is going to be your output. All these are going to be what? Your signals. Yes, the overall operation will be controlled by your control unit. What about registers? See, any operation that we are performing will be stored in a temporary register. It is going to be instruction register as well. Okay, they are used to hold the instructions and data for the execution of the processor. Whenever I wanted to perform some operations, I'll be fetching the data from the memory, right? I have to store it somewhere to process. Yes, those register, those memory is going to be my temporary registers. Okay. Next, characteristics of microprocessor. In characteristics of microprocessor, you have clock speed, instruction set and word size. Tell me what and all we have? Clock speed, instruction set and word size. What is a clock speed? See, each and every processor will have an internal clock. Yes, why do we have that internal clock? To regulate the speed at which it executes the instructions. We wanted to execute the instruction at a particular time, isn't it? For that only what do we have? We have an internal clock. The speed at which the microprocessor executes instructions is called clock speed. What is clock speed? The speed at which the microprocessor executes an instruction. Yes, it is going to be called as what? Clock speed. And how do we measure our clock speed as? We measure it as megahertz or in gigahertz. Okay, how do we measure it as? Megahertz or gigahertz. So next, what is an instruction set? The command which is given to a computer to perform an operation on a data. What am I doing? I'm just telling you, we are just telling, right? C is equal to A plus B. This is going to be a command. This is going to be one instruction that has to be performed. What is the operation that we are performing here? It is going to be A plus B operation and that value has to be stored in C, isn't it? This is a command which is actually given to the computer to perform operation on the data. Which is data here? C, A, B are all data here. It's called an instruction. See, the basic set of machine level instructions machine level instructions for a microprocessor to execute is called as what? Instruction set. And your instruction set carries many types of operations. They are data transfer, arithmetic operation, logical operation, control flow, input, output. What are they? Data transfer, arithmetic operations, logical operations, control flow, input, output. What is a word size? The number of bits that can be processed by a processor in a single instruction. Yes, the number of bits that can be processed, bit is going to be 1. Okay, the number of bits that can be processed by a processor in a single instruction is called as word size. See, the bits can be, it is going to be of one bit only, whereas how many number of bits it is going to consume for processing an instruction is going to be called as what? Word size. The word size determines the amount of RAM that can be accessed by the microprocessor. Now let us move on to the next topic, data communication between CPU and memory. See,
CPU, central processing unit, your CPU has memory data register, memory address register. Your memory data register is going to be MDR and memory address register is going to be MAR. See, your memory data register keeps the data that is being transferred between your memory and the CPU. What does it do? Your memory data register keeps the data which is actually transferred between your memory and the CPU. Transfer data between the memory and the CPU. Yes. What about program counter? Program counter we specified as PC. Okay, it keeps track with the next instruction to be executed. What does it do? It keeps track with the next instruction to be executed. It holds the address of next instruction to be executed. Now let us take some concepts like this. Read, A, B. What am I doing now? I am going to read A and B. Okay. Next, what am I going to do is, I am going to perform an operation C is equal to A plus B. Fine. Now what I have, from this, I will tell you how program counter works. Okay. First, what did we write? Read AB. First, what the program counter will do is, it will hold the value of B. Why so? It is because A value will be obtained first, isn't it? So what will be the next operation to be done? It has to obtain the value of B. So it will be the next instruction to be performed, isn't it? So what does it do? It holds the address of B. Fine. Then what it does is, after performing the operation, to perform the operation, it will hold the address of C. Able to follow? This is how your program counter works. Fine. What does this does? Your program counter does? Program counter is a special register which actually holds the address of next instruction to be executed. It always keep track with the next instruction. See, your arithmetic and logic unit of your CPU places the address of the memory to be fetched into the memory address register. What does your arithmetic and logical unit of CPU does? It places the address of the memory to be fetched. What address you wanted to fetch? That will be placed into your memory address register. Now, the next one is bus. This is going to be one important 2 marks as well. Bus is a collection of wires used for communication between internal components of a computer. What is a bus? Bus is a collection of wires which is used for communication between internal components of a computer. The word in the RAM has the same size as memory data register. The word in the RAM also has the same size as memory data register. Say for example, if the processor is an 8-bit processor, like Intel 8085 is a microprocessor, okay, and the memory data register and the word in the RAM both will be of 8 bits. Able to follow? The number of bits in the RAM as well the number of bits in the memory data register is going to be same. Let us consider Intel 8085 architecture. In that what do? We just take MDR and RAM, and those two, for those two the word length is going to be what? 8 bits. Now let us see read operation, write operation. What does your read operation does? Read operation transfers the data from the word to the memory data register. From the word, okay, from the word to the memory data register. Transfers the data from the data, okay, data is itself a plural word. Datum is a singular bit, okay. Data from the word to the memory data register. What about write operation? Write operation transfers the data bits from the memory data register to the word. Able to follow? From word to memory data register is going to be read operation. From memory data register to word is going to be write operation. Types of microprocessor. Microprocessor is actually classified based on the following criteria. What are they? The width of the data that can be processed and the instruction set. These are the two criteria through which the microprocessor is actually classified. What are they? The width of the data that can be processed and the instruction set. Classification of microprocessor based on data width. Depending on the data width, what happens? Microprocessor can process instructions, and these microprocessor can be classified as 8, 16, 32, 64 bits. 8-bit microprocessor, 16-bit microprocessor, 32-bit microprocessor and 64-bit microprocessor. Okay, next topic is classification of microprocessor based on instruction set. See, the size of the instruction set is actually important while considering your microprocessor categories. Okay, how do you categorize your microprocessor based on the size of the instruction set only? Okay, see, there are two types of microprocessor based on the instruction set. One is going to be RISC, the other one is going to be CISC. RISC stands for Reduced Instruction Set Computers and CISC stands for Complex Instruction Set Computers. In general, your RISC performs simple operations, whereas your complex instruction set computers performs complex operations. Say for example, if it is going to be a very simple, easy operations, they are going to be called as what? Reduced instruction set, and it will be processed by actually reduced instruction set computers, whereas your complex operations all will be handled by your complex instruction set computers. Examples of RISC processors are going to be Pentium 4, Intel P6, AMD K6, K7. Whereas for your CISC, it is going to be Intel 386 and 486, Pentium 2, Pentium 3 and Motorola 68000. Next comes your memory devices. What is a memory device? Memory is just like a human brain. What does your human brain does? Whatever we are doing, everything will be recorded in our memory, isn't it? The same way, whatever we are doing in the system, it will be recorded in your memory, recorded in the computer memory as well. Okay, so it is used for storing what? It is used for storing data and instructions. Yes, memory is used for what? It is used for storing data and instructions. Computer memory is a storage space in a computer where data and instructions are stored. Already we have told you, right? There are two types of accessing methods. What are they? Read and write, isn't it? And they are going to be two types of access. One is going to be sequential access and the other one is going to be random access. If I am going to access one after the other, it is going to be sequential access, whereas if I am going to access in a different way, like a random way, one after that I am going to access the 7th instruction, or if I am going to access 20th instruction, if I am going to go like that, it is going to be random access. See, in your sequential access, the data is actually going to be accessed in an orderly manner from starting to the end. But in random access, any byte of memory can be accessed directly without navigating through the previous bytes. Yes, different memory devices are arranged according to the capacity, speed, cost. Yes. See, your memory hierarchy is this. You have cache memory, main memory and hard disk. From lower to higher, it is like this: smaller capacity, faster access time and higher cost. Whereas from higher to lower, it is like this: larger capacity, slower access time and lower cost. The main memory is otherwise called as what? Your random access memory. It is available in computers in the form of integrated circuits. Here is where we just apply all your application programs, and the data in the current data in current use are kept temporarily so that they can be accessed by the computer processor. See, this is actually going to be a temporary storage. Remember, this is going to be a temporary storage. What does it mean? When the power is off, the contents will be vanished. Okay, the smallest unit of information that can be stored in a memory is going to be called as what? Bit. What is a bit? The smallest unit of information that can be stored in a memory is called as what? Bit. Fine. The memory can be accessed by a collection of 8 bits. 8 bits is going to be called as what? Byte. The memory that can be accessed by a collection of 8 bits is going to be called as what? Byte. We already know that it is going to be temporary. Temporary is volatile, isn't it? Volatile memory, which means it is not permanent. I already told you. Now let us see types of RAM. One is going to be dynamic RAM, the other one is going to be static RAM. See, your dynamic RAM, being a common type, needs to be refreshed frequently. Your dynamic RAM has to be refreshed frequently, whereas your static RAM needs to be refreshed less often, which makes it faster. Yes, and your static RAM is more expensive than your dynamic RAM. Next comes your ROM. ROM stands for read-only memory. Your read-only memory refers to a special memory in a computer which is actually pre-recorded data, which has a pre-recorded data at manufacturing time itself, and this data cannot be modified. The stored program that starts the computer and performs diagnostics are available in ROM. Yes, see what happens is, as soon as you just start your boot your system, what happens? It starts working, isn't it? It starts working, it starts performing the operations, isn't it? So what does it do? It just performs diagnostic tests, isn't it? That is going to be called as what? ROM. They are available in ROM. ROM stores critical programs such as program that boots the computer. Yes, what does it hold? It holds the programs that boots the computer. Once the data has been written in onto a ROM chip, it cannot be modified or removed. Yes, once the data is stored in a ROM chip, what happens? It cannot be modified or removed, whereas it can only be read. And it is going to be a permanent one. It is non-volatile. What is meant by the term non-volatile? Even when the power is off, the content will not vanish. It will be permanent. It will stay there, isn't it? That is what is termed as what? ROM. Now let us see the types of ROM. One is going to be programmable read-only memory. What is programmable read-only memory? This is also a non-volatile memory on which data can be written only once. Once a program has been written into a PROM, it remains there forever. Yes, what happens? Your programmable read-only memory is where the data can be written only once. Once it is written, it remains. It does not gets vanished. Yes, even when the power is off, the content is going to remain. And your PROM differs from ROM. How? See, your ROM is actually predefined when manufacturing itself, whereas in PROM it is going to be a blank memory, whereas ROM is programmed during manufacturing itself, whereas your PROM is not like that. Yes, your PROM programmer actually uses it to read read or write data into a PROM chip. How do we process the programming of a PROM? By burning the PROM. Erasable programmable read-only memory. What is erasable programmable? This is a special type of memory. See, what happens is, here you can destroy the contents. Yes, it is very similar to your PROM only, but the contents can be erased using your ultraviolet rays. How can it be erased? It can be erased using ultraviolet rays. Your EEPROM contents will remain constant unless otherwise it is exposed to your ultraviolet rays. When it is exposed to ultraviolet rays, the contents will be vanished. Otherwise, it remains. Yes. Once it is vanished, what we can do? We can reprogram the memory. What can we do? We can reprogram the memory. Next comes your electrically erasable read-only memory. What is electrically erasable programmable read-only memory? It is a special type of PROM. It can be erased by exposing it to electrical charge. How can we erase the contents? By exposing it to electrical charge. Like other types of PROM, EEPROM, like other types of PROM, EEPROM retains what? The contents even when the power is turned off. Yes, but EEPROM is slower in performance. Next comes your cache memory. What is cache memory? See, cache memory is a high speed and very expensive memory. What it is actually? Very high speed and expensive memory. See, due to a high cost, what happens is CPU comes with a smaller size of cache memory. Let me tell you the advantage of cache memory.
See, in case if cache memory is not there, what will happen is for each and every instruction to be fetched, the data has to be fetched from the main memory to the CPU. Can you understand? See, let us consider like this. I am just holding a chalk in the classroom itself. Okay, in our classroom we have chalks. Yes. So whenever I need, what do I do is I access the chalk from the classroom itself. It is going to be easy or wrong? It is easy. Yes. Now what happens is the chalk is not there in the classroom. What I have to do, I have to go collect it from the office room. Clear? Yes. So what do I do is each and every time if you want a chalk, I wanted to go to the office room to collect a chalk. Just think and see, the time is going to be wasted a lot, isn't it? Whereas if it is going to be in the classroom itself, the access is going to be easy. Classroom access is just like cache memory. Okay, so what happens is whenever the data is actually retrieved, even in your Google page, we go access, isn't it? Whatever the recently accessed files will be fetched directly at once. Say for example, if I'm just going to browse some data, what happens is it will be stored in the history such that whenever I'm accessing it again and again, the data will be obtained very fast, isn't it? Whereas if the content is not there, what will happen? It will go to the main memory, fetch it back and come. Clear? The same way, that is what is actually your cache memory. What happens is if there is a cache memory, the copy of the data, whatever we are accessing, will be there in the cache memory, and whenever the CPU is requesting for something, the copy of the data which is there in the cache memory will be given to the CPU such that the process will be fast. Whereas if the content is not there, the copy of the data is not there in the cache memory, again it will go to the main memory, fetch the contents, make a copy in the cache memory, and then move to the CPU. So what happens? The new data that I have been fetching from the main memory now will be available as a copy in my cache memory, such that the accessing of information is going to be faster. Have a look now. Due to this high cost, the CPU comes with a smaller size of cache memory compared with the size of the main memory. Without cache memory, every time the CPU requests the data, it has to be fetched from the main memory, which will consume more time. So, the idea of introducing the cache memory is that it is extremely fast. It is extremely fast memory that would store the data that is frequently accessed, and if possible, the data is closer to it. This helps to achieve fast response time, where fast response time refers to how quickly the memory can respond to read or write operations. Yes, children. So what happens? Due to cache memory, the access time is going to be very, very faster. Just have a look at this diagram, children. See, you have a CPU. CPU is requesting for a data. What happens is every time it is requesting, if it has to go to the main memory, the pathway, the access time is going to be larger. So, whenever a new data is fetched from the main memory, the copy of the data will be given to the cache memory. When the same data is accessed again, CPU will fetch the data from the cache itself. So, the access is going to be faster. The access is going to be faster. Is that clear, children? Next comes your secondary storage device. See, a computer generally has limited amount of main memory, which is expensive and volatile. To store the data permanently, what happens? You need a secondary storage device. Yes, the secondary storage device serves as a supporting storage to your main memory, and they are all non-volatile. What is the meaning of non-volatile? Permanent. Yes, secondary storage is also called as what? Backup storage. Let us see one by one. One is going to be our hard disk. Hard disk is going to be a magnetic disk which can store data. Yes, what happens? The hard disk has stacked arrangement. Stack means what? First come, first serve. Like what to say? One above the other. Okay, accessed by the pair of heads for each of the disk. The hard disk comes with a single or double-sided disk. This is going to be your hard disk. Next comes your CD.
Your compact disc. Your compact disc is going to be made from 1.2 millimeter thick polycarbonate plastic material. Okay, a thin layer of aluminum is actually a thin layer of aluminum or gold is applied to the surface. Yes, what happens when you just hold your CD? You can see one either gold reflection or silver reflection, isn't it? CD data is represented as a tiny indentations known as pits. Okay, what happens is you have circular tracks, isn't it, in a CD. When you just look at it itself, you can see circular tracks, isn't it? Those circular tracks, in that each and every places you have a pit encoded by a spiral track. Yes, I told you already, no? Each on the top you can see spiral tracks. See, the areas between, whenever you store the data will be stored in the pit only. Okay, the area between the pits is known as what? Land. Okay, a motor within the CD player rotates the disc. The capacity of an ordinary CD is going to be 700 MB. Next comes your DVD. Your DVD is going to be an optical disc capable of storing 4.7 GB of data, more than 6 times what a CD can hold. DVDs are often used for storing what? Movies at a better quality, like CDs, DVDs are read with a laser. And your DVD can be of one side or two sides. Yes, and one or two layers per data side, per side. Okay, the number of sides and layers determines how much it can hold. Double layer means they are usually gold color, whereas single layer means they are going to be of silver color like a CD. Next comes your flash memory. Flash memory is an electronic non-volatile computer storage medium. It can be electrically erased and reprogrammed. It can be electrically erased and reprogrammed. They can either EEPROM or EEPROM, electrically erasable programmable read-only memory, or erasable programmable read-only memory. Examples for flash memories are going to be your pen drives, memory cards, etc. is going to be what? Your flash memories. They can be used in personal computers, PDA and digital audio players, digital cameras and mobile phones. Yes, it offers fastest access time, and it takes the time taken to read and write a character in a memory is called as what? Access time. The time taken to read or write a character is going to be called as what? Access time. What is the capacity of your flash memory? 1 gigabyte, 2 terabytes. Yes, this is your example for your flash memory. It looks like a pen drive, isn't it? Next comes your Blu-ray disc. What is Blu-ray disc? It is a high density optical disc which is very similar to your DVD. It is a type of disc used for what? It is used for PlayStation games and for playing high definition movies. A double layer Blu-ray disc can store up to 50 GB of data. Usually people who are playing PUBG and all will know, right? What happens? The storage capacity for playing all that needs what? It has to be more, isn't it? For such a case only we go for what? Blu-ray disc. DVD uses red laser to read and write data. It uses blue-violet laser to write. Hence it is called as Blu-ray disc. Next comes your ports and interfaces. The motherboard of a computer has many I/O input-output sockets that are connected to the ports and interfaces found on rear side. Rear side means back side of the computer. The external devices can be connected to the port and interfaces. Yes, only no. You can see on the motherboard backside and even in the CPU backside, you can see so many ports and interfaces where we just connect the plugs and sockets, isn't it? Wires and all will be connected from the rear side only. The various types of ports are serial port, parallel port, USB port, USB 3.0. What is serial port? To connect the external device from found in old computers, going to be our serial port. What about parallel port? It is used to connect the printers found in old computers. What about USB port? It is used to connect external devices like cameras, scanners, mobile phones, external hard disk and printers to the computer. USB 3.0 is the third major version of a universal serial bus standard to connect computers with electronic gadgets. It can transfer data up to 5 gigabytes per second. Now USB 3.1, 3.2 are all released. This is going to be your USB 3.0. This is your ports and interfaces. See, mouse port where you can connect your mouse. Yes, this is where you connect your keyboard, where you connect your network, your internet. USB ports where we just connect our pen drives and all. Here is where your power supply is going to be. Have a look at it. Yes, HDMI is also a 2-mark definition. Yes, it is an interface. HDMI multimedia interface is an audio video interface which transfers uncompressed video and audio data from the video controller to the compatible computer monitor. What do? We don't compress any video. Just like that, what do? We just send the video, send the data of audio and video to the compatible computer monitor, to the monitor from a video controller. Yes, not only to the computer monitor, it may be to the LCD projector or digital television as well. See, this is going to be, first one is going to be micro HDMI, and just have a look at it, the pins. Yes, this is going to be your HDMI. What is a VGA connector? VGA connector to connect a monitor to or any display device like a LCD projector. We have what? VGA connector. Audio plugs for connecting speakers, microphones and headphones. PS/2 port, it is used to connect mouse and keyboard. SCSI, it is used to connect hard disk drives and network connectors. Yes, children, with this? Yes, children, with this your third unit is just getting over. Yes, what you people are going to do is, you people are going to write the short answers, detailed answers, 2 marks, 3 marks and 5 marks neatly in your classwork notebook, and you people have to submit it on Wednesday without fail. Thank you, children.